Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and this is that belated weekly wrap-up that I promised you guys on Sunday. I'm feeling a lot better, I don't really have a cough anymore, so I can talk about books at length, hopefully not ad nauseum. So I'm going to start off with the comics. I got volume 6 of Saga by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples. For people who may not know, I think that's a pretty small number of you, Saga is a science fiction fantasy comic about an unconventional family trying to survive while on the run from people who want to kill them because they exist, because their family exists. It's kind of a Romeo and Juliet story. Two people from different species on other sides of a war fall in love, they have a kid, and then the respective governments are trying to track them down because clearly their family is an abomination and their child should be, killed or whatever, and they really don't want that to happen. The thing I like the most about this volume is that at the beginning there seems to be a significant time jump, maybe of a couple of years, which skips past what could have been some boring, repetitive things with Marco and Alana getting back together, and then basically just skips to them getting their daughter back, and I really liked that. I like the direction this is going in, and I will certainly keep reading. Then I read volume 5 of Ms. Marvel called Super Famous. This is written by G. Willow Wilson. The art, I believe the main artist is now Takeshi Miyazawa, and Adrian Alfona and Nico Leon also do some artwork in this. Alfona is the original artist, and I am sad that it seems he won't be working on this anymore, maybe only as a guest artist, but the art by Miyazawa was also okay. I just think it lacks the detail and the touch of Alfona's artwork that I really enjoyed. I'm not sure if I could find a comparison. This is Miyazawa's artwork, which I do like. It is good, and I think it still looks like Ms. Marvel's style, but you flip a couple of pages and that is Alfona's artwork, and I still like it so much more. One of the things that I have noticed after 5 volumes of this is that every volume has a message or a lesson that Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, learns. I think that the lessons, the messages about family and friends and growing up and having responsibilities and trying to achieve your dreams and everything, whether that's, getting good grades in school or becoming an Avenger, they're all very appropriate for a teenage audience and very appropriate for these characters' lives. But after 5 volumes, I feel like every volume doesn't need to have a message that's so obvious. It feels on the nose. I think this might be evidence that the writing is kind of compressed. I feel like the timeline or maybe the production of this comic has been expedited to match up with other things going on in the Marvel Universe, which I am mostly unaware of, and perhaps it suffers a little bit in the storytelling because of that. Nevertheless, I still really like the characters, and it's the only Marvel comic that I'm interested in reading at the moment. On to novels proper, I read The Einstein Intersection by Samuel R. Delany. This is from the 60s, it won a Nebula Award, it was nominated for a Hugo Award, and it is the first thing I have read by Delany that I do not like. I did not enjoy reading this. It is a far future, almost post-apocalyptic science fiction version of Orpheus, a man who goes on a journey to retrieve his dead lover from the afterworld. And I am not necessarily a fan of the myth of Orpheus, and the way that Delany did this, I just thought Usually I think his writing is very intellectual and really tries to weave in a lot of unusual things, but perhaps as an early work by him, he wrote this in his early 20s, I believe, it comes across as trying far too hard to be philosophical and esoteric. From just the way that it's written, it's so weird, to the very out there quotations at the beginning of each chapter, and yes, it includes excerpts from his diary while he was traveling around Europe and the Mediterranean writing the book. It's oh no, Delany, I don't think this works so well. There were still a couple of things in there that really piqued my interest. For example, it it takes place on Earth, but probably thousands of years in the future. Humanity has gone to the stars and then self-destructed, leaving their ruins behind them, and some other people are living on Earth, and the characters are from this species. They clearly state that they are not human. Perhaps they wish to become human at some point. They have fashioned human bodies for themselves, but they're not human. And I could have used way more explanation about that rather than a weird person wandering around trying to find and retrieve a woman who died, who he's not even sure he's in love with, but he sure as heck wants to have sex with her again, is what I took away from it. No, the whole Orpheus thing is not for me. Next, I finally finished Synners by Pat Cadigan. It took me almost the entire month of August to read this book. This is a cyberpunk novel from the 90s, and what I will say, objectively speaking, I think this is a very good cyberpunk novel. If you enjoy that genre, if you really like William Gibson's Neuromancer, for example, I think you should totally read this, and you should read Pat Cadigan because she's known as the queen of cyberpunk. I am not into this genre. There are just aspects of it that I don't like, mainly how dirty and gritty and drugged up it is. That's my experience with the small amount of cyberpunk I've read so far, and it's all in Synners too. Synners is about when technology meets the human body and when the rate of crime is practically faster than the rate of technological advancement. Somebody invents sockets to directly connect to people's brains, which lets you do amazing things, but also lets you hack people's brains, and that's never a good thing. And then the shiitake just hits the fan. I feel like the story was told in a pretty fractured and confusing way. There are a lot of characters, and the point of view switches between all of them constantly. And one of the most confusing things is that whenever the point of view switches, the new person is not immediately identified. So every time there was a POV switch for all 400 some odd pages, I would be so confused for a couple of paragraphs about whose head I was in. I was constantly being knocked off balance and trying to find my way again, which has just made it difficult to pick up this book and get through lots of it. I would just get tired while reading it. My big question at the end of this book is, who in their right mind would let you stick a cable, 6 of them or more, directly into their brain and then give you access to it? And then I suddenly remembered that all these characters are drugged out of their minds and have already put a lot of weird crap in their bodies. I am not one of those people. If you want to hear more about this book from people who perhaps dissected it more deeply than I care to, or who absolutely love the book, then I would recommend that you go watch Denise's recent review or listen to the Magical Space Pussycats podcast episode where they talk about reading this for their Lady Vaults thing, which is what kickstarted me into finally picking up the book as well. I'm filming this in the evening, which I never do these days, so I'm losing light and I need to speed up. Any Other Name by Emma Newman. This is the second book in her Split World series. This is like an urban fae story. Most of it takes place in a mirror world of ours called the Nether, where families bound in service to fae lords and ladies live. Their society is very strict and very Victorian. Women basically don't have rights, and a woman from one of these families named Catherine escapes life there. She wants to get an education, she wants to live on her own. She lives in our world called Mundanus for a couple of years, and then she is found, dragged back to the Nether in the first book, and forced to marry a man against her will. And then there are all these things going on about people killing the sorcerers and the arbiters who are supposed to keep people in the Nether and keep the fae lords and ladies bound. And of course, Catherine is on a quest to once again escape the Nether and get back to her life and the privileges she wants, and then perhaps to improve the conditions for women in the Nether, which I think is a development starting in the second book. I think that Any Other Name is a better book. It feels stronger than the first one in the series, Between Two Thorns, but structurally it is totally a middle book in a series. It doesn't conclude anything. It just keeps introducing more mysteries and more developments, and then it ends. And then there's kind of an oh my goodness moment at the end of it, but it's once again not finishing anything but kicking off another complication. So clearly I need to read the third book, and a fourth book just came out this year in the series, so I'll keep reading. But I do hope for a more definitive end and wrap up to storylines in book 3. The last thing that I read, and my favorite by far, is Dreamsnake by Vonda McIntyre. This is a science fiction post-apocalyptic novel about a healer named Snake who goes on a journey seeking forgiveness for a mistake she has made while helping other people. Healers like Snake use genetically modified snakes to produce medicine, and the dream snake is the most critical snake they use. Without a dream snake, a healer cannot really be a healer. And at the beginning of the story, Snake loses her dream snake because she misjudges the ignorance and fear of the people she is helping, and then she must go back to the healer station and ask them to perhaps give her another dream snake, which is unlikely because they are very rare and they are not able to find as many dream snakes as they need, or she will no longer be a healer. And while she is going through this journey, she meets people, she helps them, she adopts a young girl who's been badly burned and very mistreated, and then she may have a way to solve the healer's problems with not having as many dream snakes as they need. I didn't get this book until the halfway point where it clicked, and it was so good all of a sudden. It's when I realized the story has a lot of similarities with The Steerswoman by Rosemary Kirstein. I would argue that The Steerswoman is better written and has a more complicated, detailed, and perhaps enjoyable, rereadable type of plot than Dreamsnake does, but the core, the skeleton of these stories is very similar. A woman who values knowledge and an ability of some sort, going out, helping people, and trying to find something, something that will help other people, knowledge or something about her world. And I really like this. This is not an adventure story. It's not even like a post-apocalyptic story. Very little happens in it. A woman makes a mistake and then she makes a discovery. But it's how she behaves in this world, it's how she behaves and treats other people that she meets with compassion. And sometimes she's very human. It is her job to heal people, but sometimes she may judge them just a little bit, get a little frustrated with them, but she always tries to help them. I really appreciated that tone and that message of being compassionate towards each other, perhaps even a little naive. There's a blurb on the back of this from Joanna Russ that calls it a tender adventure story, and I think that adjective tender is really appropriate. I think that describes something essential about this book and the character and the feeling in it. And at the end of the day, I was very happy that the main character saves herself in some way. When she gets into trouble, she saves herself, and there's a man who is in love with her and is pursuing her, and he doesn't save her, but he is there when she needs him at the end, and that was just really awesome. That is everything I read this past week. My battery is about to die, so I'm going to sign off very quickly. Thank you guys for watching, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.